I'm loving this disunity to unity sort of transformation. Can we use this as an example for a film?
Sure. Well, there's so many. You know, that's why I call the book The Protagonist's Journey, because it's, you know, Hollywood loves happy endings, and even indie films generally have a happy ending. And so that's that positive arc, you know. There are movies where characters don't go through an arc, they refuse to change, or they go through a negative arc, like Charles Foster Kane in Citizen Kane started off in a state of unity in Colorado, and he was yanked out of there, and he always just wanted to go back. That's what the snow globe represented, right? But so he ended up in this dissolute state and eventual despair and death. But most movies have a positive arc. And so, for example, the disunity to unity, those four movements, that's my language system. There's other ways to refer to it. And by the way, this aligns with what has become more and more popular now amongst pro writers that I know, to thinking of the structure of 4 acts as opposed to 3. If you look at the psychological journey of the character, you know, that these 4 movements echo that. So let's look at a movie like The Silence of the Lambs. So Clarice Starling is in a major state of disunity at the beginning. Her father was killed when she was 11 years old, so she was orphaned. She was sent to her uncle's Montana farm, where she had a horrific experience where basically all those negative associations of death and whatnot were attached to an experience she saw when she witnessed the slaughter of the spring lambs. And that's why she has these dreams. That's an example of the unconscious trying to come into the light of consciousness, her dreams, right? And so she's become a law enforcement officer. Her father was in the sheriff's department. But she doesn't become a sheriff. No, she goes to the behavioral science unit in FBI, which deals with like serial killers and the motivations and the mindsets of people who are, in a sense, evil. She is drawn to that because she wants to understand how these guys could have killed her father. So she's got all this going on. She's also a woman in a heavily male environment, and she's trying to hide her West Virginia roots, as Lecter says, you're no more than 3 generations from poor white trash, right?
Oh, that's good.
So, so she's in a state of disunity. And when I've said that Jung quote, if the situation remains unresolved, it happens outside his fate. It's when Jack Crawford invites her in to go basically to tease and tantalize Lecter to try and get clues about the Buffalo Bill case. That had to happen. She could have met any other serial killer. It had to be Hannibal Lecter. Why? Because he's a psychotherapist, and he could lead her into herself. She's never going to be able to move to unity unless she deals with that stuff that's deep, deep down in her unconscious. So he's the perfect person. He's the mentor in Silence of the Lambs. Even if he's a psychopath, he's not the nemesis. The nemesis is Buffalo Bill, right? So she has to go on this journey. And she's pulled out of being an agent in training to now she's in the field with Jack Crawford. Jack Crawford tells her point blank in the first meeting, don't let Lecter inside your head, which is exactly what she does. She lets Lecter inside her head because she knows intuitively that that's where she needs to be. She needs to have this guy. Of course, she's doing it ostensibly because she's trying to get clues to save Catherine Martin, who was the kidnap victim. Catherine Martin, in my view, is the attractor character because Clarice identifies with her. Lecter says, you believe if you say poor Catherine Martin, you can stop the awful crying of the lambs. She's a young single woman, just like Clarice. She's from the South, just like Clarice. She's a victim, just like Clarice was in terms of her parent getting killed. So you've got this journey of her becoming more and more, less and less afraid of being like a rookie and more embracing her role as an FBI agent. Remember, she does that autopsy where she finds that clue with the moth seed in one of the victims' mouths. So by the midpoint, she's really starting to become more proactive. So she's deconstructed her old ways of being, also deconstructed her fear about telling the truth to Lecter. They make that deal, quid pro quo. You tell me things and I'll tell you, but nothing, I don't want to hear about the case from you. I want to hear about your personal life. And so she does start to talk about her personal life, leading to that big moment where she confesses the Montana farm to Lecter, which is key because she has to face that fear. And so she's reconstituted, she's reconstructed now, and much more proactive. In fact, once Lecter's gone, he escapes, she says it's all over, but then she realizes Lecter gave them a clue. Again, mentor figure. We covet what we see. And so she now realizes, the first victim was someone that Buffalo Bill saw, so I'm going to go to his hometown. And she does this on her own. She's completely proactive now. She's bending rules. She's doing what she needs to do, embracing her power. And all of that is to set into motion the final struggle between she and Buffalo Bill. Buffalo Bill represents the boogeyman, the guys who killed her father. So she's got to face them. And if you look at that last act, is so great in Silence of the Lambs, because she keeps going through doorways, one threshold after another. She's got to go through deeper and deeper into Buffalo Bill's lair until she faces down her nemesis and she kills him. So that's a classic example of a character who goes from disunity toward a state of unity through those 4 stages.
And so Lecter would not be the shapeshifter, chameleon, trickster?
No, there's actually the trickster character's Jack Crawford, who, because he lies to her, he's using her as bait to get Hannibal Lecter. If there's a scene in the autopsy where she's surrounded by all these men, these male, and he gets the head of the sheriff's guy, let's go talk in private, and he does this thing like he's saying, let's get away from her. So he's an ally, but he's also kind of an enemy, and she calls him on that. And then even at the end where she says, she's found out that Buffalo Bill's a seamstress, and she's at the home, and Crawford says, no, we know where he is. He's in Joliet, Illinois. We're gonna go get him. Thanks for all your help. So she's not, you see what I'm saying? Enemy, ally. Also, Alex Chilton, who's the head of the psychiatric, or the prison where Lecter is, he's also a trickster. Remember, he hits on her, like in the first scene, he says, Baltimore can be kind of a fun town if you know. And then he also plants a recording device in there. He's listening to her talking to Lecter, and then takes Lecter away from her to Memphis. So those are your trickster characters, I think. And Lecter's the mentor. The attractor is Catherine Martin, and the nemesis is Buffalo Bill.